Their lives ended in tragedy, and the world was left questioning how an influencer could walk away with a shocking sweetheart deal. Liana Crest had built her online identity on calm routines, colorful planners, and short videos that made life look simple. To her millions of followers, she seemed confident, organized, and impossibly put together for someone barely 23. But beneath the bright filters and smooth editing, her life was breaking apart in slow, quiet ways. The arguments between them grew sharper, especially after Mara gained temporary custody of Liana's half-siblings, Ella and Jonah. Though the change was meant to give the children more stability, Liana viewed it as a public embarrassment, a sign that she wasn't responsible enough to care for her own family. Privately, she feared this could damage her reputation. The idea that her followers might see her as unreliable rattled her more than she ever admitted. She worked harder to create perfect content, but the pressure left her exhausted. Every smile on camera felt heavier. Every deadline she missed worsened her panic. The tension with her mother made her feel cornered, and she began avoiding family gatherings altogether. Everything took a devastating turn. On a quiet evening in early autumn, emergency responders arrived at Mara's small suburban home after a neighbor called about a strange odor and unanswered knocks. Inside, they discovered Mara, Ella, and Jonah dead under circumstances that immediately raised suspicion. Nothing seemed stolen, nothing was broken, yet something about the scene felt wrong. Minutes later, officers found Liana nearby. She appeared pale and shaken, offering a scattered explanation about visiting the house and finding the tragedy already unfolding. Yet certain details raised questions: minor inconsistencies in Liana's story, unexplained gaps in the timeline, and small pieces of evidence that didn't quite fit. Each detail seemed important, yet none offered definitive answers. Insurance records complicated the case further. Mara had recently updated her policies, adding clauses that indirectly benefited Liana. While the amounts were not enormous, the discovery fueled public speculation. Analysts online quickly connected these facts, framing the story as one of greed and deception, even though authorities had not confirmed any financial motive. This narrative spread faster than the investigation itself, creating a tense online atmosphere where rumors often outweighed facts. Neighbors provided testimony, recounting moments of unusual noise and movement in the days before the tragedy. Some mentioned hearing arguments, while others noticed Liana's car parked outside the house for longer periods than she initially claimed. Small details like these, combined with her erratic online activity, made investigators increasingly suspicious. Still, there was no smoking gun. The physical evidence was circumstantial, and forensic teams worked tirelessly to find anything that could conclusively link her to the deaths. Meanwhile, the public reaction intensified. Former fans posted conflicting theories, some defending her as a stressed young adult trapped in a family conflict, others painting her as a calculating influencer who prioritized fame over life. The story went viral, drawing attention from mainstream media, true crime forums, and independent social media investigators. Liana's once admiring audience transformed into an army of online detectives, dissecting every post, every video, and every public appearance. With the investigation ongoing and no definitive answers, the line between fact and speculation blurred, creating an atmosphere of suspense that gripped the nation and set the stage for a case that would become one of the most discussed legal mysteries of the year. The investigation shifted into high gear when a neighbor's security camera revealed footage that challenged Liana's statements. The video showed her leaving her apartment hours earlier than she had told police. While it did not capture the events inside her mother's house, it contradicted the timeline she had given, and investigators saw it as a crucial piece of evidence. This discovery led to her arrest on suspicion of involvement in the deaths, though authorities admitted that the case still lacked direct proof. News of the arrest exploded online. Social media users dissected every frame of the security footage, comparing it with timestamps from Liana's posts. Conspiracy theories multiplied. Some argued that she had staged the timing to appear innocent, while others believed the footage was being misinterpreted. Hashtags demanding justice trended, and her name became synonymous with controversy. For the first time, Liana experienced the darker side of fame, global scrutiny that judged her life more harshly than her own mistakes ever could. At the police station, investigators meticulously reviewed her phone, messages, and browser history. Deleted texts were recovered, but none explicitly revealed intent to harm. Late-night searches reflected anxiety, confusion, and financial concern rather than malice. Detectives found this frustrating because, without a confession or a clear link, the case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence. Forensic teams examined her clothing, fingerprints, and other materials, but results remained inconclusive. Every detail raised more questions than answers, creating a tense uncertainty that both investigators and the public felt. Legal experts began weighing in, noting that Liana's situation was complicated by her status as a public figure. The scrutiny she faced could bias witnesses and influence the jury later. Defense attorneys argued that the investigators had jumped to conclusions based on her fame rather than actual evidence. They highlighted the lack of physical proof connecting her directly to the deaths, the uncertainty around the timeline, and the possibility that someone else could have entered the house unnoticed. Meanwhile, Liana's online presence continued to stir fascination. Some followers remained loyal, sharing videos and messages expressing belief in her innocence. Others used her platform to speculate, amplify rumors, and demand harsher consequences. The public's obsession blurred the line between curiosity and accusation, making it difficult to separate truth from theory. Every day, the case grew more complex, more polarizing, and more sensational. What had begun as a tragic domestic incident was now a national spectacle, and everyone waited, tense and uncertain, for the next shocking revelation that could finally illuminate the truth. When the trial finally began, it immediately captured the attention of the nation. Courtrooms were packed, cameras filled the hallways, and online viewers followed every development in real time. The prosecution painted Liana as a young woman whose ambition and desire for control had spiraled out of her family's life. They argued that her financial struggles, combined with tension with her mother and the responsibility for her half-siblings, created a dangerous mix. They highlighted the security footage, deleted messages, and inconsistencies in her statements as evidence that she had acted with intent. The defense countered with a focus on doubt and uncertainty. They insisted that no direct evidence tied her to the deaths and that investigators had misinterpreted her behavior under stress. Legal experts testified about the unreliability of digital evidence, noting that deleted texts could reflect frustration, not planning a crime. They questioned the timeline, suggesting that gaps in the footage and witness reports left room for multiple explanations. The absence of forced entry was framed as evidence that Mara had always had access to the house, meaning Liana could have entered innocuously, without sinister intent. Public reaction was explosive. Social media debates raged between those convinced of her guilt and those defending her innocence. Influencers, commentators, and ordinary viewers dissected every detail. Clips of the trial were replayed endlessly, and hashtags calling for justice trended alongside hashtags calling for sympathy. Each expert witness, each piece of evidence, and each legal argument became fodder for online speculation. Liana's every expression was scrutinized, and small gestures were interpreted as either signs of remorse or calculated performance. As days turned into weeks, the courtroom tension grew. The jury faced a complex task, weighing conflicting evidence, testimony, and digital records against the absence of clear physical proof. The prosecution had painted a picture of opportunity and motive, but the defense had systematically dismantled each point, emphasizing uncertainty. Observers outside the courtroom debated the fairness of a trial influenced by viral attention and public pressure. When the verdict was finally read, it shocked everyone. Liana was not convicted of murder. Instead, she was found guilty of obstruction of the investigation and providing false statements. Her sentence was relatively light compared to what the public expected. Reactions were polarized. Some believed justice had failed, while others felt the court had acted appropriately given the evidence. The case, which had begun as a tragedy, now raised larger questions about fame, influence, and the justice system itself. It became a symbol of how public attention can shape perceptions of guilt and innocence, leaving viewers and commentators questioning what truth really meant in the age of social media. After serving her sentence, Liana stepped out of prison into a world that had changed, yet remained intensely focused on her. Cameras and reporters waited outside the gates, eager to capture her first words and reactions. Instead of retreating, she cautiously returned to social media, posting a short video that hinted at survival and renewal. She spoke vaguely about overcoming a difficult chapter in her life, careful to avoid details about the deaths, the trial, or her conviction. Her followers watched with curiosity, shock, and skepticism, and the video quickly went viral. Despite the controversy, or perhaps because of it, her audience grew. Millions of viewers tuned in to watch her life unfold, fascinated by her resilience and intrigued by the unresolved questions surrounding her past. Some fans embraced her return, sending messages of support and admiration. Others remained critical, analyzing every post and commenting endlessly on perceived inconsistencies in her story. Online debates were relentless, and every clip, live stream, or story she shared reignited conversations about her guilt and the perceived leniency of her sentence. Liana's channel, once built on lifestyle content, subtly shifted. Videos about routines, fashion, and travel continued, but an undercurrent of tension and mystery drew viewers in. Her popularity soared, with advertisers cautiously returning, attracted by her massive reach. The term "sweetheart deal" became permanently linked to her name, a symbol in public discourse for how influence and privilege could intersect with the justice system. Legal commentators, social media analysts, and everyday users debated endlessly whether fame had allowed her to escape a harsher punishment. Meanwhile, the official investigation quietly continued. Law enforcement periodically reviewed evidence, re-examining forensics, timelines, and witness statements, but no new suspects or conclusive breakthroughs emerged. The deaths of Mara, Ella, and Jonah remained unresolved in the minds of many, overshadowed by Liana's continued visibility. For viewers, the story became a paradox. Fascination with the influencer's life, tinged with unease at the unanswered questions, created a unique kind of suspense that didn't fade with time. In the years that followed, Liana's presence online became a case study in modern fame, social influence, and public perception. Her story served as a chilling reminder of how quickly admiration can shift to suspicion, how justice can appear subjective in the face of celebrity, and how some mysteries never truly leave the public consciousness. Even as her life progressed and new stories took center stage, the question of what really happened that night continued to haunt viewers, leaving an unsettling tension between curiosity, morality, and the lasting impact of digital fame.